In some ways, I could have taken the easy way out and said he did his undergrad at U.S., political science, lawyer, blah, blah, blah. But that's really not who Cory is. That's what Cory does. In our Indian way, when you say to someone, who are you? You introduce yourself as what role you play in life. And if I were to describe my friend Cory, when I think of in order who he is, he's first and foremost a dedicated father. He's a doting husband. He's a loving son. Avid barbecue. And for his job, he practices law. Because there's far more to Cory than what's there. I've had the good fortune to know Cory and his parents for a number of years, and you only saw a very brief clip up there, but a lot of who Cory is today was, as he indicated, instilled upon him by his late father. I have stories, and I've heard them mostly from John, Cory's dad, so most of them can't be told here, about Cory being at business meetings from the time he was very young, being involved in business. Cory truly has the entrepreneurial spirit, and he was raised with that, with his father. And I respect that because in many ways it's very much the Indian way we do things. The only way to teach things is by actually showing. And in the Indian way, if I were to do that, I would to bring my children to things. And I've done that throughout my life. When you look around you, the only person who has his child here tonight is Cory. He's brought his son here, my stepson. I'm very proud to have him sitting beside me. And I'm sure that that's part of the grooming that he's doing as a father throughout the course of his life. I know that he learned from his father early on the entrepreneurial spirit. His father was in so many different businesses, I can't even keep track of them. He was an oil and gas business. He had a mail order business. He sold earmuffs to cows. Once at a law school function, your father, I think, seeing an opportunity, indicated that he could sell condoms to all the guys in law school for $1 a dozen. $1 a dozen. The only catch was we had to buy a container load. But he had the connection to do it because he saw an opportunity. And I think that's the spirit that Cory grew up with. Not the condom part, the entrepreneurial. The entrepreneurial spirit is not something that you just flip a switch on. It's something you're raised with. And I think Cory's upbringing has fostered that as he grew up watching his father in business, participating in business. Right out of law school, I know he participated in one of these mail order businesses. There's a photo of Cory wearing breeder's gloves and an apron that was in a mail order magazine. I don't know how that picture got sent around to all the law firms in Regina at the time he was articling, but it did. So there are photos out there. But Cory then took that experience with his father, working at the Department of Justice, saw an opportunity and seized it, where he realized his father needed intellectual property. From that, Cory started his own business. From there, he was on the video, his former partner, Bob Callio, a man who we went to law school with who was clearly twice Cory's age, but nonetheless they became partners and turned into one of the largest intellectual property firms in Canada, in my opinion. And in fact in the world. Cory has, at least in the past, had clients in the States, Germany, all over Europe, and he would travel to do that. He became such a force that his firm, he joined First and Leslie Tyner, the biggest firm in Saskatchewan, one of the largest in the prairies. You don't do that to a mom and pop operation. That's who Cory Furman is. I give you Cory Furman.
Thank you, John. Mr. Speaker, members of Parliament and members of the Legislature, City Councillors, colleagues, clients and friends, thanks everyone for coming tonight and participating this evening. It's really pleasant for me to have you here to share a moment of reflection on the success and the potential of our Regina business community. it's also pretty good. It's also good to see everybody. One of my neighbors is here, and I asked him to come to the dinner, and I said, you know, it's a black tie thing, Paul. He said, I have a black tie. Do I have to wear anything with it? And so he cleans up pretty good. I was a little bit worried also too when my son Clark, we dressed him up in his suit the other day, and he said, "Okay, guys, I'm ready to go to the funeral." So I'm glad that everyone's here tonight. I'd like to thank all the guests at the podium here for your kind greetings, and thanks very much, John, for standing in and stepping in as Master of Ceremonies, and for your very gracious introduction. It was with some trepidation that I asked a colleague from law school to introduce me tonight, because I had to really hope that he would keep it clean. I've really enjoyed building my business here with all of you in Regina for the last 17 years, and it's a great honor for me to speak to you tonight and to assume this leadership role with our chamber for 2012. Over the last few weeks, as I sort of started to put my thoughts together for this evening, and yet again I had to follow Victor, who is a hard act to follow. So over the past few weeks, as I put my thoughts together for this evening and for this year, I really sort of focused on two things. I think this year with the Chamber, our primary goal under what leadership I can assert, we've got a great team, so I've got a pretty good job of being able to lead a good group of people that are very capable. But our first goal is simply just going to be to continue to implement our strategic plan and how we're going to continue to build that momentum, build our membership, build our voice, and to build our presence in the business community. I also started to think about a couple of underlying themes that are of interest to me from a business perspective, and that's what I propose to talk to you briefly about tonight. Taking also a page from Victor, with podium privilege of the mic in my hand, I think I'm also going to take the opportunity to thank a lot of you tonight who've impacted my business and personal life here in Regina through the years. I have to warn you, I was at a Saskatchewan Chamber function last night, and I ran into the Premier, and he was shaking my hand. He congratulated me on the dinner tonight. He said, "So Cory, have you started to write your speech yet?" And I said, "Actually, Brad, it's about half done, but I'm starting to get a little freaky because it's not really coming together." The first thing he said to me is, he said, "Cory, it's not yet 3 p.m. on the day of the speech. You don't have anything to worry about." The second thing I said to him, I said, "Well, so I need to talk for no more than 5 to 7 minutes, Brad. How much do I need to write?" And he said, 18 pages all the time. Just the font size. And I had to tweet him tonight because I finished my written material at 5 o'clock tonight, and it's 18 pages exactly, and pretty big typing. But I think in terms of our strategic plan for this year, I had an interesting encounter about a week or so ago when I ran into a couple of these guys tonight, and I promised I would genericize this story a little bit. But I gave a call to a friend of mine from law school after Christmas. I said, "Hey, I haven't seen you for a while, let's go for lunch." He's like, "Well, why don't you come with me to go out with a group of friends for lunch, and we'll catch up." And I figured, okay, I did. I'm not going to genericize it. I figured I'm going to stick rib chuck with buying me lunch. And so we go along, and I'm meeting him there, and he said, you'll know some of these guys. We were meeting from opposite ends of town, and I get in the room, and one of the guys says to me, "Oh, here, come and grab a beer, and we'll get you some lunch, and then I'll introduce you." And I was like, "Well, introduce me? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, didn't you know you're giving a speech? You're doing a speech on everything that the Chamber's going to do this year." And it was kind of a hostile crowd, actually. They weren't necessarily all Chamber members and fans. So instead of having lunch, I think I immediately concluded they were having me for lunch. But we had a great discussion. After I sort of sweated my way through the first 5 minutes or so of that discussion, we stayed there for a few hours, actually, and talked about the Chamber and about issues in the business community. And I really enjoyed that, and it really kind of gave me good food for thought as I was thinking about preparing for this evening. It demonstrated to me, that discussion demonstrated to me just how important these sort of planks in our strategic plan are, and how important it will be for us to continue with our implementation of that this year. as Victor mentioned, our plan, which we'll continue with implementing this year, has really these three key planks. The first of which is we'll continue to engage with our members. Engagement with our members, engagement with our potential members in our business community, engagement with governments and other stakeholders, really just to be involved and to facilitate discussion around issues of interest to our members and to the business community. That sort of feeds into this other piece of sort of building and maximizing value for our members. And we need to be able to understand people's needs in order to be able to maximize our value proposition. And so that's part of that engagement strategy. Part of that also is that one of the things we're going to work on this year is really sort of taking a good look at segmenting our membership. We've got a great number of members now. And one of the things that's a part of our plan is to really undertake a segmentation exercise to really kind of, on a different slice and dice from a number of different directions and really find if there's some smaller groups or a small group kind of things or smaller, more focused approaches that we can take to deliver some value for sort of smaller subsets of our membership. And in terms of value, we continue to believe that one of our primary goals is also to continue to advocate on behalf of the Regina business community. Frankly, not just for our members, it's important for the whole business community. It's obviously we're a member-driven organization, but the more the merrier. And all of this feeds into this networking hub philosophy. And really, my focus for this year is that we'll continue to shepherd the organization through implementation of this plan. Now, when I was thinking about this plan and sort of the key concepts in our plan, I have this terrible habit of reading all kinds of business management books and trying to figure out how those things might apply to things in my life. And I started to think about a lot of the different concepts that have been important to me in our business community in Regina over the years. And there's lots of those, but two of them that came to mind that I wanted to make a brief comment on tonight are innovation and mentorship. And I think these are two important things important things to talk about. Coming through the election in the last fall, and you will have seen sort of at least in the sort of provincial political discourse over the last 18 months or so, there's this evolution of the talk of an innovation agenda here. When I first heard that, of course, being an IP lawyer, I thought, well, okay, being an IP lawyer who likes to build my business, I'm thinking to myself, okay, innovation agenda, how do we apply that to technology? There's got to be some good ways. Like I was intrigued by it, but I found that initially I was approaching it from a technical perspective, and I was thinking, well, okay, this is interesting. The government is interested in sort of doing some things to kind of try and foster the technology sector, and that would be good for my clients and good for my business. And I kind of scratched my head a little bit about that. Then, as I thought about that a little bit more, it really sort of started to impress upon me that beyond technology and beyond sort of and even beyond the whole sort of innovation across the entire economy, we can be innovative, and we are innovative in everything that we do. And beyond that, the sort of macroeconomic agenda, that culture of innovation is here in Saskatchewan. It extends right down to us as individuals and in our businesses. It's already here. And when I started my practice in 1995, my IP practice, it was from a technology perspective. It wasn't the easiest thing to do to go stand on a corner in Regina and hand out business cards and try to find any clients that were doing patent and trademark work. I mean, they were here, but I didn't dig for it. I was thinking earlier today, it was a good year before I had my first real engagement on an IP file. I was doing every piece of legal work I could find for a year while I did that. But when I found that there was and there remains a thriving technology community here. The interesting thing, I think, is that part of what makes us so good and so innovative is that the economic history that we have here. I mean, so we're enjoying this time of prosperity now, but we've had our ups and downs, and probably more than enough downs for a while. But I think that's created for us a really good baseline of skill and talent. And so I think innovation across the economy, even outside of technology, is something that we're already good at, but it's also something that will continue to be important for us, and it's something of interest to me from the perspective of how we can sort of knit together innovative topics and innovative discussions with implementing our strategic plan at the Chamber. I heard an interesting quote, which I think applies to this sort of innovation concept. It was right here in this room, actually, at a speech before Christmas. It was Bill Doyle from Potash Corp was making a speech, and he made a speech about, he said in his speech, and he was talking about the potash industry at the time, but he made it, I kind of caught this, he said, we're at the point where we don't need to fight over the pie anymore. Now we can all work together to bake a bigger pie. And really, from an innovation perspective, I can sort of see that as a transition from defensive innovation to survive, to offensive innovation, to really make the most of the economic opportunity, and really sort of shifting from a survive mode to a thrive mode. And I think, I'm excited for what the economy holds in Regina in the next while, and it's certainly in terms of innovation and innovative people. You're all innovative people, and it's exciting to see what everybody does with innovation every day. Through the implementation of our Chamber objectives this year, we're going to facilitate innovation. We'll help people to get together to make connections across different, hopefully with just networking and implementing our networking plans. Help people to make connections and we'll just, by providing those networking opportunities, we can provide opportunities for people to innovate together. I read an interesting piece that talking about whether creative thinking and innovation were genetic, and it said that this guy said, well, intelligence is genetic, but innovation is maybe at the most 30% genetic, and the rest of it's a learned behavior. So I think if we keep working hard, we can keep on innovating. If you believe that guy. I think by being curious, we can continue to learn and create new ideas. So I challenge you all to continue to innovate. I remember when I was in law school, I had a job interview with a law firm in Saskatchewan, and they were talking about, what do you want to do when you're out of law school? And I said, well, I'm kind of interested in IP. I hadn't taken any intellectual property classes. I don't, frankly, have a technical background, but I was interested in it. And this guy, really, if you pardon my French, really kind of ticked me off, because he looked me in the eye and he said, that's just crazy. Like, what the hell would you do starting an IP practice? You can't practice IP law in Saskatchewan. There's nobody needs that. And so I kind of moped away with my tail between my legs and went and got a job elsewhere with the government, and kind of carried that around with me for a while. But then when I finished my articles, this was an innovative challenge to me, because I carried it around with me for long enough that I still remember it when I see that guy too. I've never told him. But, that was an innovative challenge to me, and so I challenge everybody to be innovative. A substantive area where we as a chamber will continue to try to be innovative and to encourage innovation in the economy this year. The issue, there's many issues of interest to our members, but the whole issue that's the most important issue in many of our companies now is that just the whole issues around the labor shortage, and to just encourage people to innovate through continued efforts with immigration, and, engaging the First Nations community, and those things that we've been working on as a chamber. Maintaining and enhancing training programs and those things. And frankly, until we can optimize or enhance the immigration process or move some of these things along, also innovating by finding new ways that, frankly, we can make the best of the labor force and the tools that we have. The second piece for me that it's interesting to me, and it's an opportunity, frankly, on some level for me to say thanks, is to talk about mentorship. I think mentorship is really important to me. Mentorship in our business community is important, everywhere from young and small companies and entrepreneurs all the way along the corporate chain. And as the economy grows, more businesses are started, more businesses grow, and we all need some help once in a while. And there's obviously an industry in that, but also I think it's important for us to encourage small businesses, if you have questions or you're outside your comfort zone, just to look for some help. And I think one of the things that makes our business community, and what I'm really proud about our business community here in Regina, is that we're all pretty good at helping each other. I've had well, I could probably go around the room and at almost every table in the room here find somebody who's taught me something over the last 15 years. And I thank you for that. I thank you for taking the time. I think the fact that we all look to continue to pay that forward, I think that's good for the business community. And again, to continue to try and facilitate mentorship in the community in terms of the implementation of our strategic plan for the Chamber this year, I think, again, we can foster mentorship and help people to really provide mentorship to companies by moving forward on our sort of planks in our plan. My goal for 2012 then is for our organization to simply continue to build momentum, to engage often with our members. You know, the substantive issues that we identify with our members or with others in the community, we'll talk about those, we'll advocate on those, we'll network about those, and we'll just continue to try and make a difference and make it easier for everybody to do business here. We're going to work pretty hard at enhancing sort of commercial trust with our membership this year and then with the business community by completing this first round of the segmentation of our membership. We'll find some focused deliverables that we can deliver out of that. And this set of CEO roundtables that we did last year, to any of you in the room that participated in those, there was really immensely valuable information in those, and we'll factor that in as we move forward as well. We'll continue to increase our engagement not only with our members, but with governments and other external parties of interest. Thanks to all of our elected officials who are here tonight. We'll look forward to speaking with you more in the next coming while about issues of interest. Provincially, we're pretty excited to have an enlarged pro-business caucus at the table with our provincial government, and we're looking forward to talking to you and working with you. And municipally, we're looking forward to participating in a constructive and fulsome discussion this year over municipal issues in the run-up to the municipal election in the fall, to really advocating on behalf of our members in the business community in that election campaign this fall. We'll finish in terms of delivering on our sort of value proposition and how we do, as Victor mentioned, have a sort of an overhaul of our website and our Chamberlain magazine underway. We'll finish that this year. And generally speaking, if you've got ideas about how we can sort of further enhance member communication, we want to hear them. 170 companies last year. We hope for more. We're stronger together, and so advocacy benefits the entire business community. So to the extent that you either we're lucky enough to have you here tonight and you're not yet a chamber member, then I probably could get John Hopkins to sell you a membership at the door on your way out the back. Or alternatively, if you've got other friends who may be interested in participating in our discussion, we'd welcome that also. In terms of some final thanks, I want to thank our colleagues from other chambers of commerce who are here tonight. A good number of us spent some good time together with a lot of the elected folks here also last night at the SAS Chamber function, and we enjoyed that time together. And so the people from the SAS Chamber and the Saskatoon Chamber, and I just met a fellow from the Moose Jaw Chamber over here, and so we're happy to have you here and to have you engaged in dialogue with us. I want to thank all of you who've given me a phone call or an email over the last couple of weeks. I feel pretty lucky. I think last year, frankly, as the vice chair, was a harder job, to be honest. Victor didn't tell me that when he asked me to do it. I think as the chair, it seems to me that, I'm working with a great team of people, and I think it's pretty easy to lead when you've got a good group of people there at the table. I want to thank my business colleagues from MLT that are here. I got a whole bunch of people from the firm down here at the front, and I am also thankful that you haven't started throwing buns at me yet, and I'm almost finished, so that's a good thing too. If I digress personally for a second, a lot of my best friends in Regina are people that I met through business contacts and through the chamber. And the full extent of those friendships really became clear to me a couple of years ago. My family experienced a really serious health trauma while we were out of the country, and this worked out really positively, but I could never take enough opportunity to thank all of our friends. My partners from the firm, and those of you in my extended network who were there for me and for our family through that. I extend to you my deepest thanks for your personal and your business support through that time. Back to business, thank our sponsors. All the things we do cost money, and we can't necessarily fund them all directly just from membership revenues yet until we sign up another 1,200 members. But so if your companies have been or are interested in being involved in sponsorship of events, we welcome that. I'm looking forward to working with our new vice chair, Gord Archibald, who, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere hot tonight, so he's not able to be here. But and the remainder of our board this year, as I said, and I can't say enough, we have a great board and a great staff team, as Victor mentioned. I want to take a minute to extend my personal thanks to 3 outgoing board members. We have Bill Coulthard from SIAS, Robert Byers from Hammer and Housing, and Murray Hogan from Connexus. All 3 of you guys, and I know Robert and Bill are here. I haven't seen Murray here, but I don't know if you're here, Murray. But all 3 of these fellows have really contributed above and beyond around our board table, and their voices will be missed. Thanks to the staff, and John, we can give him one more congratulations on his. He's entered now into his, I think now maybe close to, or has entered into, we celebrated his 10th year with the Chamber last year. We thank him for continuing to run the store there and do a great job for us. And Jeanette, thanks for organizing tonight. I had to take a moment to thank Victor, and I echo the thanks and the effusive praise of Victor across the board here tonight. We've worked for, I think, 4 years together on the board, and it's been a real pleasure. Many thanks for all your hard work, and I think you leave me with some pretty big shoes to fill. You heard Victor talk about 300 functions. When I first saw him write that in an article in the Chamberlain magazine, I phoned John Hopkins and I said, "What the hell is Victor talking about?" Then I tried to figure out if there was a clone of Victor or if he had a twin running around. But anybody that knows Victor will know that number is probably pretty much right on, and that he would have been there fully engaged and firing on all cylinders for every single one of those functions. And so he's done a good job for us. I decided a while ago to read this book called How to Measure Anything, another business book. It's all about how to try to measure subjective things in your business, so that you could kind of put a quantifiable number on things and use these in business decisions. And I sat down last night and I tried to shoot through this analysis because I thought, what would be better in a thanks to Victor than to come up with a formula where I could get a number. So far, I figured out parts of the formula. I don't think I have the math all done, but I think how this starts is you take the number of hands shaken, multiply it by the number of speeches and greetings given on behalf of the Chamber, multiply that by the number of countries visited on behalf of the Regina District Chamber of Commerce, which for Victor, I think probably last year employed, in addition to Canada, included Mexico and India. Multiply that by the number of people who've asked me what in heaven's name Victor does for a living, because he's so dedicated to the Chamber and doing other community involvements that it's hard to figure out what his day job could possibly be. Multiply that by the number of color-coordinated pocket squares that he owns. And he won't tell me that answer. We did a little TV interview this morning. He and I were sitting around BSing for a few minutes after. I said, "Victor, how many of those have you got?" He won't tell me. And you divide that all by the decimal percentage of the people at a rider game who wouldn't know Victor. And you can see where this is headed. Pretty big number. Victor, your contribution and your engagement with our board and our chamber has been above and beyond, and you've really done a good job for us. I speak for all of us in the room, I think, when I convey to you the highest and warmest regard in which you're held. Also, knowing your passion for good governance, I want to also explicitly thank you for your help in enhancement of our governance practices at the Chamber over the last few years. I'm looking forward to our continued friendship and to building our businesses together here in Regina for a long time. So thanks very much. I've saved the best best for last, and we're in the home stretch here. I think I'm past 7 minutes, but yeah. I want to thank explicitly and most heartfeltly my mom and dad. As it said in the video there, I grew up in an entrepreneurial household, and so I kind of got steeped in the pot of small business pretty early. My best business mentor ever was my dad. I learned everything from him about hard work and client service. And my mom was always there for our family. And really, I think I grew up in a perfect home to learn the values of family and hard work. And so thank you, Mom, for being here tonight. And thanks to both of you for what you've done for me. My wife, Tammy, she's been a great friend and support for me throughout my business. A little known story. She was about the third person I met on my first day of work in Regina at the Department of Justice. We were in law school together, but older woman. She was a couple years ahead of me. And I think she spent more time in the library and I spent more time in the pub. And I don't want Hill to say anything else than that. But I didn't know her in law school, but I got to my first day of work at the government and met her when at about 9:15 a.m. she came in and gave me a terrorizing work assignment on my first day as an art-time student. So my story with Tammy begins in Regina on day one of my job, and then we're still here today. So I thank you for all your support, and I thought about that today, and it really kind of impressed upon me the importance to me personally of my time in Regina. I'm appreciative of all the hard work that Tammy does for our family, including telling me even in the dark with her radar eyes that suit does not go with that tie. And that somebody at the office will kill me if I actually wear that. And so everybody at work is the beneficiary of that. She humors me in my extracurricular business pursuits, like the chamber puts up with me working long hours and traveling a fair bit, and has helped me whenever I've asked, and quite often when I haven't asked. And I'm immensely grateful for your support. And then we come to Clark, who I'm proud of him for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that he's still cheering for the Riders after this year. I'm proud of him also for the entrepreneurial spirit, which I can see already because I bought a new coffee machine after our summer vacation, and his idea was that we were going to open a coffee stand on the street outside our house, and I was going to make cappuccinos for everyone in the neighborhood, and he was going to sell them for $2 each and put them in his piggy bank. I'm also pretty proud of the fact that he actually wanted to run for the SAS party in the election last fall. That's another story for another day. Whatever he chooses to do, I know he'll be successful and he'll be able to take care of his parents in their old age. So to close, I thought I would close with an inspirational quote, but Tammy told me that I couldn't really sell Winston Churchill or John F. Kennedy, so I figured I'd go with Steve Jobs. I couldn't convince Jeanette to let me wear a black turtleneck and get a great big TV screen up behind me, so I figured I had to settle for a quote. But I read this book, and it said one day when he was younger in his business, they asked him what he wanted to do, and he said, "I want to put a ding in the universe." That quote inspires me to think about what we can all do together in our personal and professional lives. And while I don't think we're going to send anyone to the moon during my tenure as the chair of the chamber, although Victor apparently is going to have a lot of time on his hands, we can maybe entice him. I'd like to believe that together we can continue to excel and put a name in whatever it is that we decide that we put our minds to. So I know that with all the innovative minds in the room here tonight and in our business community, we have a positive year ahead. Lots of great things to look forward to. Thanks very much for coming. If you'd like to stick around for a bit, I'd love to kibitz my way through the room for a little bit. But thanks very much for coming and have a great